But anyway, let's talk about Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje. I know you have a lot to say about it, so I'll let you start off.
From the start of that fight, it's like, like if you're betting and you're gambling, yeah. From the start of that fight, I watched round one. From round one, I was seeing Ferguson getting tagged. He was just open to getting tagged.
But did you watch it with commentary?
I watched it with commentary, but I'm just saying why I was disappointed was because I'm thinking this guy's elite, this guy's great. From round one, I saw this guy getting tagged with simple left. And then I'm thinking an elite guy that's great is going to make adjustments. I didn't see that. He got dropped with a jab in the end. So it was the same left. So from round one to round five, he did the same thing.
Those were hooks though, yeah? They weren't really jabs. They were like,
no, but I'm saying the end
hooks.
was a jab.
Yeah.
I'm saying from the whole fight, he was getting done by a left hook. For a guy that's meant to be elite, I feel that you should make adjustments. That's not what an elite person would know how to adjust.
Nah, see, I saw the fight differently. So I saw it without commentary, right? And the stuff, like you can go and check the significant strike stats and whatnot, right? But yeah, Gaethje landed the most significant strikes in that fight. But some of the ones in round one and round two that the commentator was like, oh, what a strike. They landed on his shoulder. Like, and then they just make a loud sound because there's no fans outside. There's no fans watching it. And therefore everyone can hear it and goes, ooh, and ahs. For me, that fight was... So the first round, Tony always starts off slow, right? He's known to start off slow on the first fight. First two rounds, he always does. But he was still doing well. It's just that he was doing well for the first 2 minutes, and then Gaethje took over, started landing some big shots, right? And initially, it was Gaethje taking the center of the octagon, I thought, for the first 2 rounds initially, right? And I think Tony Ferguson was starting to get into his groove. And then even in that second round, if you watch all of Tony Ferguson's fights, he takes shots. He always takes shots. He's got a chin. Can you imagine how all those punches that Gaethje landed that whole fight? If that was anyone else, they probably would have been finished in the second round, maybe finishing the first, right? He took so much punishment, right, throughout that fight. But in the first 2 rounds, I thought it was pretty even. I thought Gaethje started to land the more significant strikes. What made the difference, I thought, was those leg kicks. He was landing devastating leg kicks on Ferguson, right? And Ferguson, you could see Ferguson's leg slowly going red. You could see him, he's slightly restricted of movement. And then by the time that last part of the second round happened, I saw the uppercut and I thought, okay, here we go. This is where Tony Ferguson. And then I didn't see anything from Ferguson after that in the third round. Like Ferguson will normally swarm over his opponents. He'll start to pressure them. He won't give them any distance. And his arsenal is like crazy, right? In terms of what he can land. So when I mean by that, I mean like he would throw knees, he would have a clinch work, he would throw elbows in the clinch work. He will he wouldn't go for submissions unless someone tries to take him down. So I didn't expect it to go to the floor because Gaethje doesn't really do any takedowns. But in terms of his attack, like he just didn't look himself. And I felt Gaethje took over that third round, slowly took over the third round. And then he landed some crazy shots in that third round. And I think that third round made a huge difference to the rest of the fight. When it got to the fourth round, I thought Ferguson was starting to get into the fight again slowly. And then, boom, again, he got hit with something which stunned him. I think he got stunned like 3-4 times in this fight.
Yeah, he was throwing some mad, like, wild punches, and he was just
they were
open.
Technically good.
Wow, they looked like they were just wild, and he was just open to getting countered.
See, what Gaethje did in the third, this is what I was trying to get at. What Gaethje did was, in the third round, he tactically changed his approach. So he was taking more the center of the octagon. Then he started to wait for Tony. He started to wait. He let Tony come forward to him. He was waiting, and he didn't, like in normal fights with Gaethje, he would just go all out and basically punch himself out. Like in the fourth, fifth round, he'd be kind of staggering and they'll be throwing bombs and stuff, right? But in this fight, when it got to four and fifth, the third, the fourth, and the fifth, it's like he was fine because he was not expending so much energy. He was just like waiting for Ferguson, throwing the right hand over the top, or he's throwing a left hook. He threw like a low leg kick and then threw an overhand right. He was basically setting Ferguson up, and you could just see it 1-2, or you're throwing a 3-4 combination at some point, like a 3 combination. It's just, I thought it was a masterclass from Gaethje, and considering it just didn't look the same, the Ferguson that we've seen in the other 12 fights, if you watch it. Right, you see in the other 12 fights, just didn't look the same. His movement looked odd from the first round, and he wasn't throwing enough of what he normally does. Like, how many elbows did you see in that whole fight? Like, I think he threw 2.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I was expecting.
It was a complete bizarre fight.
That's what I mean. Like, because I was disappointed because obviously the way he was spoken to me as a guy that's, like you said, he's got so much in his arsenal, but all I saw was a guy walking forward and just throwing mad shots, leaving himself open. And I think one thing as well, which you said, which was good, and I think with the no fans, obviously I didn't understand why they were saying it, but you can hear the corners now, and it's interesting because you can hear the advice the corners were giving, and Gaethje's corner were saying a lot of like, just calm down, and it's only, I think, when he got to the 5th round, they actually zoomed into the pressure.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, his corner man said to him, he said to him in the 5th round, he said,
don't lose it.
Listen,
like,
you've lost before.
But he actually pushed forward in that round. I
don't think he pushed forward because there was a couple of times where he looked like to say he had Ferguson going.
That last 20 seconds, and then afterwards he kind of backed and then landed
at the end, left. At the end, yeah.
But he I just thought it was an odd way.
I think another thing as well, and that's one thing you can touch upon with Ferguson, is that, again, I don't want to always relate to boxing, but one thing is, which I tend to find when I watch MMA fights, is that when fights tend to get cancelled and they get rearranged, like in boxing, if a big fight was to get cancelled, the opponent wouldn't necessarily be good because obviously there's less time. I think in the recent, like, in terms of big fights anyway, the last fight I remember that somebody got replaced with a good person is Joshua Ruiz won. Because Ruiz was good, like he was known as good, and then obviously it was a late replacement. In MMA, that seems to be like standard. Like, okay, Khabib can't fight Ferguson. We don't give Ferguson a top 15 guy. We give him somebody really good, and then he has to kind of like change his whole. I don't know. That to me, that seems commonplace in MMA, which I think is a good thing, but I think it can affect you in a sense that, like that guy was really good, man. And I think he looked like he was completely different fighter to Khabib. So I don't know if you think that.
Gaethje's had a 3-win streak, and before this fight, so now he's on a 4-win streak. But he was knocking all his opponents out, and this guy was undefeated before he came in the UFC. And then he made 2 mistakes. He was actually winning those 2 fights, and then suddenly he just gassed out, punched himself out, and then he lost in both of those, right? One of them, he got hurt quite bad, but the other one, he gassed out quite bad. But he's come back. Ferguson didn't need to take this fight. And this was, for me, I thought Ferguson was going to win. The way Ferguson fights, especially the way we've seen Gaethje fight in rounds 3, 4, and 5, you'd think Ferguson would win it. Gaethje completely surprised me. And I just felt that either Ferguson underestimated him, or something was wrong with him, or he just, maybe his age, because age is a big factor. He's like 36, going to turn 37 at some point. If you ask anyone who watches Ferguson closely, it just didn't look the same. And it could have been because of training camp as well, right? Yeah. He's had 2 training camps. He's been training for Khabib since November. He even did an early weigh-in. That could have affected him. It didn't affect his gas tank, but it could have affected his mentality, and he may overthink things. And
he didn't look fresh. He didn't look like the other guy looked fresh and sharp.
He was like, he was ready to take it. And like he probably thinking right now, maybe he think, I don't know if Ferguson's like this, but he may be thinking I should have waited.